That's not generally where we want to be, but I'm leery to throw this away. We just don't know what's on the top of our deck. We're going to keep it, and it's very speculative. It could definitely come back in our face, but the Field of Ruin is going to be nice against the Urza deck. Let's see if we can draw a Ghost Quarter. Skyclave is not well matched up against what they're doing, though. Okay, we get another land. Okay, so we'll see if they're going to make turn 3 Tron right here. They have a Blast Zone instead, so we're going to have an opportunity to use Field of Ruin to keep them off of Urzatron. And we draw Stoneforge Mystic, so that's pretty much perfect timing on that. We do have options here on which equipment we want to grab. Either Batterskull makes a lot of sense. The Maul also makes a bit of sense, being able to give our creatures flying. I'm going to go for the Batterskull, I think. Okay, so they're searching for a land, and they get Eldrazi Temple. That's going to allow them to play a Thought-Knot Seer. I am curious if they'll take the Skyclave Apparition or the Batterskull. Okay, they take Batterskull. I am fairly priced into using the Field of Ruin here. I would like to take the Eldrazi Temple away from them. Okay, Aether Vial to 2, and we find Arbiter. That's fantastic. So we can put Arbiter down and then use the Field of Ruin, so the opponent can't get a land out of it. We would also miss out on getting a land, but it's the price you pay. We have an Aether Vial in play, and we can operate with fewer lands. I don't know. The opponent probably plays a one of wastes. There's too much upside to running a basic. Wondering if I should get rid of the Blast Zone instead. I think the Eldrazi Temple is just so much more dangerous. They could easily play a Reality Smasher next turn, and we'll just pass from here. Next turn we'll be able to path to exile the Thought-Knot Seer. And hold Skyclave Apparition up with Aether Vial. Is this a Walking Ballista? No, this is a Chalice of the Void, so our path to exiles are no good. There are just 2 dead cards. Okay, we will push this up to 3, and that's where it will stay. And we find another Arbiter. So we can play that with mana, or we can draw a card. I know I want to play the Apparition. I think we'll just play the Arbiter down for mana as well, and present a board of weenies. I suppose I play the Apparition now, so that if I draw a land, I can play it. Could also hit the Chalice of the Void with this, enabling Path to Exile. That probably would have been the better play here. Just didn't think about it long enough. Okay, well I can Flickerwisp the Apparition, and that will get rid of the Chalice, so that's an option next turn. It will give them a 4/4 token, but that can be Path to Exiled. Something we can consider if we need access to these paths. We can get them by flickering the Apparition. But if the opponent isn't playing any lands here, we're going to quickly close the game out with our board. No more tokens on that, thank you. And we get another Flickerwisp. We'll start with an attack. Okay, they're going to dismember the Apparition. So they've already lost the life for the dismember. We're going to flicker it. If we do that, though, the opponent will get a 4/4 token. And this is before blocks. So that would be able to kill one of the Arbiters. On the other hand, we could let that resolve, and then we can play the Flickerwisps to get rid of the token. I think I'm fine with that. Oh, good morning, Crown. Thanks for stopping by. You're made it for match number 1. Hey, okay. So we got there game 1. And we know what we're playing against. I feel like the Winds of Abandon are going to be quite strong in this matchup, both as another removal spell and as a 2-drop. We have Relic-Warder, which can exile their Chalice. So I think we want to bring in all 3 of these cards. Giver of Ruins does give protection from colorless, so that could be quite useful. I'm wondering about the Thalia. I think the Archon is quite good. The Sword of Fire and Ice I don't think is very good in this matchup. We're going to take that out. I think we'll take out one of the Thalia. And then we might take out one of our 1-drops. Maybe because we brought in more removal, we're okay with taking out 1 path. Okay, we're fine with this hand. It is quite painful with 2 draw lands as our mana sources. Okay, Giver of Ruins. Okay, they have a power plant, so they're just missing the tower. We're hoping to draw a Ghost Quarter here. Okay, we get a Thalia instead. I think we probably just play these Stoneforge Mystic and pass. And we can keep the Giver of Ruins back to try and protect the Stoneforge Mystic. We'll go get Batterskull. And pass back. Okay, so they'll have access to 7 mana this turn. Walking Ballista would be quite good for them. Not sure what other big other creatures they play. Thought Not Seer. So we have 2 answers to that. We'll need a land to play the Skyclave Apparition. So they probably will take Winds of Abandon here. But they might just take the Batterskull. Okay, they do take Winds, aiming for a removal spell, and play a Matter Reshaper. Do we find land? We do not. So we're going to be looking to put the Batterskull into play, and in that case we can just pass. We have made a bit of a stumble here, not being able to apparate the Thought Not Seer. We'll see if the opponent can capitalize. Okay, so they get another Urza land. They have access to 9 mana. Looks like our opponent has a lot on their mind. They have so many manas, so many options. Okay, so they have something for a ton of mana. Is this a Walking Ballista? Yes, it is. Walking Ballista for 4. So I probably give my Stoneforge Mystic protection from colorless here. Then it can block the Thought Not Seer. Or do I put the Batterskull into play? So this would be a great target for the Apparition. If I put the Batterskull into play now, I can give it protection from colorless, and then they can't kill that with the Walking Ballista this turn. I think that that's the best play, is to put the Batterskull into play right now. Oh, that's... If I give the Germ protection from colorless, the equipment would fall off, wouldn't it? So I can't actually do that. I would lose my Germ. Well, if they put... Okay, so... In response to this, we could try and give the Stoneforge Mystic protection from colorless, but that doesn't seem very worthwhile. If they want to kill the Walking Ballista to take out the remnant of the Mystic, that's fine. Not sure if they bother attacking with the Matter Reshaper here, or offering the trade. They might just hang back. Okay, we'll take the trade, gain the life, and let them draw a card, or get a free land. Okay, Thought-Knot Seer has entered their hand. Oh, of course. That makes a lot of sense, that why they attacked like that. Okay, we need land here. We do not get it. We are too far behind. If we get land, though, the Skyclave Apparition might catch us back up. No, I think we'd be too far gone because they would have 2 Thought-Knot Seers and just a ton of mana for the Walking Ballista. We're going to move on to the next game here. So there might be some value in Phyrexian Revoker in naming Walking Ballista. We'll take out the Thalia, put another path in, so that way we're maxing out on removal. Okay, I think we're fine like this. Okay, we have lands and spells. Kind of wish this Aether Vial was another creature, but we have some lands that draw into more unknowns. We're going to keep this. Get this Aether Vial in underneath the Chalice. I wonder if they bother keeping Chalice in this matchup. It is quite good against Path to Exile. Okay, our opponent has mulliganed, but only once. Okay, we'll play Aether Vial first. Second turn, we'll play the Mystic. And we draw another Aether Vial. Okay, we'll go get Batterskull. And we'll pass. Okay, Blast Zone. That can be quite useful in getting rid of our stuff. What else do they have here? Spatial Contortion to get rid of the Mystic. Okay, that'll work. So that slows us down quite a bit, but the Ghost Quarter will be quite good against them. Wondering if I want to draw a card here. I think that I definitely do. It is going to slow down casting Batterskull, though. We already have most of the lands that we would require to cast the Batterskull, but I'd like to use the Ghost Quarter to remove one of their lands, and it would be better if I had Leonin Arbiter to do that. Okay, we find another draw land. I don't think we want to use the Ghost Quarter just yet. The question is, do we play the Ghost Quarter just to get the Aether Vial down without pain? I don't think that's necessary. Okay, so they double up on the mine. And it looks like they're passing back. With one more land, they'll be able to activate the Blast Zone and wipe out both of our Aether Vials. So we have to consider using the Ghost Quarter on this turn coming up. Okay, we're going to say yes to both of these. And now we find the Arbiter. Okay, so we'll play the Arbiter and the Ghost Quarter and get rid of the Blast Zone. Of course, if we get rid of the Blast Zone with the Ghost Quarter, they do have the mana available to pay for the Arbiter. So we might want to wait for their upkeep, or better yet, their draw step, and then we'll do it. Then they'll have to tap out their mana. Okay. So if they want to search for a wastes, they'll have to tap one of their mines, as well as the Blast Zone. And we can take this stop off of the draw step. Our opponent deciding if they want to stifle their mana this turn. I think that it's probably worthwhile for them, if they have wastes in the library, to pay the 2 mana. But they choose not to. Okay. Oh, they had the wastes in hand. Okay. Okay, so this one we say no to, and this one we say yes. And these will stay at 3 and 2 for the rest of the game. We'll play the Giver and attack for 2. Now, we are also going to be looking to draw a card here, but I think we might want to wait so that if a Thought-Knot Seer comes down, we can Path to Exile it in response. We'll keep the option open to path before we draw a card. Okay, Warping Whale. So they're going to exile the Giver of Ruins. Okay, they have a Ghost Quarter of their own. And probably, yes, Thought-Knot Seer, so we'll use Path to Exile to get rid of that immediately. And because of the Arbiter, they will not search. But this will give them one extra card to look at. Another Stoneforge Mystic. So I'm going to go ahead and put that into play, go get another equipment, and they'll take either the Batterskull or the Maul. But I'll be able to keep the other one. Oh, I can't because of the Arbiter. I always forget that interaction. It's a good thing I don't play this deck in paper, because I would be such a cheater. So I might have been better off to keep the Stoneforge Mystic in hand there, and make them choose between the Mystic and the Batterskull. Okay, we got Ghost Quarter. Excellent. So we can Ghost Quarter their Ghost Quarter. And they're tapped out, so they won't be able to get a land. We also have access to drawing a card here, which I'm a big fan of. So let's start with that and see what comes of it. Okay, we get Winds. We're going to have to hold that back. Okay, and we'll just pass here. Okay, so they're most of the way to Tron now, just missing the power plant. Is this another Thought-Knot Seer? Or perhaps a Walking Ballista? This is a Karn. Okay. So if it ticks down, I'm going to be able to kill the Karn. So they might have to tick up, but that means my Aether Vials no longer work. Okay, they are ticking up. And we get Flickerwisp, but we can't do a thing with it because the Aether Vials don't work. Okay, I believe we're going to be attacking the Karn here. And we'll pass. A third mine. Opponent is probably fuming. All these mines and no temples, no power plants. Opponent still has over 10 minutes on their clock, plenty of time to finish the game. And I have almost 12 minutes. So there should be no danger of either of us running out the clock. All right, opponent. What are we gonna do? Okay, so they are plussing Karn again. And is this a smasher? Walking Ballista. It's a Walking Ballista, X is 2. Okay, and the Karn does not stop their own artifacts. So they'll be able to use that to kill the Arbiter if they so desire. And we find planes, so we can cast the Flickerwisp. If we Winds of Abandon the Walking Ballista, they will kill the Leonin Arbiter, and we'll be out of mana, and Karn will still be preventing us from putting the Flickerwisp into play. We could attack the Karn first with the Leonin Arbiter. They would block with Walking Ballista, they would trade, and we would keep the Winds of Abandon that way, but we would not get any damage in on Karn. We could attack with both, and if they blocked Stoneforge Mystic, they would not be able to kill the Arbiter. Okay, let's attack Karn with both creatures and see what happens. They could block the Stoneforge Mystic and then use the 2 tokens to kill the Arbiter. Yeah, I think that's the best play, and the opponent agrees. Karn takes no damage. And I lose my Arbiter, so they can start searching for their land. Now I am able to put Flickerwisp into play, and I can blink the Stoneforge Mystic and go get an equipment. Now the opponent is almost out of cards, as are we, but Karn will be able to go and get them something sweet. And the Maul attaches itself when it comes into play, so we don't have to worry about equipping it through a Karn. Unfortunately, the opponent did find Power Plant, so depending on what their last card in hand is or what they can search out with Karn, we're in quite a bit of trouble. Okay, they have an Ugin. So they can destroy our Stoneforge Mystic or the Flickerwisp. Karn can search something up, maybe a Ensnaring Bridge. No, they got a Sky Sovereign instead. Okay, I think that's basically the game. They have 2 Planeswalkers, I have no board. So we're going to concede here. This hand is much better, we'll keep this. And we'll throw one of the doubles away. Definitely want to get rid of one of these 3 drops. Okay, Snow-Covered Plains to start, and Giver of Ruins. So we're probably playing a mirror match here. We'll play Plains and pass. We'll probably be looking at Stoneforge Mystic as our play number 2. But since they got the drop on us here, they'll be able to... Oh, look at that, and a Leonin Arbiter. So that cancels our Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, so we'll play land, and since we can't really search up a card with the Arbiter, we'll play Thalia. Now, if they attack with Arbiter, we're going to have to let it through. The Giver of Ruins could give the Arbiter pro-white, and then we would lose our Thalia. Looks like they're going to kill both of our lands here. Fortunately, we still have 1 left in hand. No blocks, opponent. Okay, we find Plains. And we'll attack. If we're not using the Thalia to block, it should be attacking. Okay, so they do have another land themselves. So too do we. And we will play the Giver and attack with Thalia. So we're really looking for that 3rd land drop here, so we can drop the Maul of the Skyclaves onto Thalia. Check that. We would need 1 extra mana. We need 4 lands to play the Maul. But we could play the Archon. They might be using Field of Ruin here against us anyway. No, Skyclave Apparition. Will that get rid of the Giver or the Thalia? Okay, we find Aether Vial, so we can play that for 2 mana. And then we just have to pass. The Thalia can be blocked by the Skyclave, and Giver of Ruins will finish the job. So it seems like they have no shortage of lands. Even after using 2 Ghost Quarters, they still have 4 lands on the board. Okay. I imagine that's taking the Thalia. No, taking the Aether Vial, leaving the Thalia for us. How generous. Okay, we find another 3-drop. The only thing we can play is a Stoneforge Mystic, and we can't search the library. So at least we get to see in this game how good the Death and Taxes deck is. The opponent is really showing us how it's done. See here, you draw lands and spells. And we draw Path to Exile. So we could Path to Exile something. We would go to 2. We could Path the Giver of Ruins, go to 2, block something and die. So we have no plays here. As for what we want to bring in this matchup, hey, it's all good, Crown. Let's see here. We want to bring in, I think, the Winds of Abandon and the Relic-Warder. The Relic-Warder can get rid of their Aether Vials or equipments. And I think the Thalias are not so great in this matchup. I don't really see any of the other cards I would want to bring in. Perhaps the Phyrexian Revoker over Thalia. We can potentially stop their cards that they have in play. We'll see what we can do on the play. So, Crown, how did the draft go? Yes, definitely would like to play first. We have 2 lands, Stoneforge and Path, we'll keep. Can Revoker stop Vial? It can, but it would stop it for both of us. It's one of those symmetrical effects. And since it's a mirror match, it's actually symmetrical. So we'll just play Plains and pass. Okay, it looks like they're making the same play. Plains pass. Do we find another land? Oh, we find the Giver of Ruins a turn late. We're going to play Stoneforge Mystic. And go get Batterskull. I'm wondering if Sophie would actually be better here. Just because it would basically kill their creatures every time we struck with it. But we're going to go with the classic Batterskull, and we'll pass. Field of Ruin, and let's see if they play a Stoneforge of their own. Yes, they do. They play the classic Stoneforge Mystic. Let's see if they grab a Batterskull as well. And they do. Dueling Batterskulls. We do have Path to Exile to clear their Mystic out of the way. The Archon doesn't look too good here. I'm thinking we probably Path their Stoneforge and put our own Batterskull onto the board. I am a little bit concerned about giving them the extra mana. But we don't want to do it during their upkeep, because then the Stoneforge Mystic will be able to put the Batterskull into play. So we'll just pass here, and we'll put the Batterskull into play at the end of their turn. Okay, so they're almost casting the Batterskull with their mana now. Another option would have been to put the Giver of Ruins into play, along with the Batterskull, because the Giver of Ruins would give the Batterskull protection from black, and then the Germ on the other side wouldn't be able to kill it. So the opponent's really thinking through their line here. This is quite the crux turn. And if I get land next turn, I'll be able to play Stoneforge, search up a Skyclave Maul, and then use my other Stoneforge Mystic to equip it to the Batterskull, giving me a 6/6 flying vigilance lifelink first strike. But that's a turn down the road here. We might not have that opportunity. The opponent could easily have Path to Exile. Okay, they're going to use Field of Ruin here. So we'll go ahead and tap this for a mana, and then let it happen. Okay, no reason to do anything now. We can still wait until the end step. Okay, it looks like they have another Stoneforge Mystic here. And they get them all. Okay, so we'll play the Batterskull like this. And we'll see if we draw land. We do not. We get Flickerwisp instead. Flickerwisp can be used to bounce the opponent's Germ on the Batterskull, so that'll be quite useful next turn. We might be looking at playing Stoneforge Mystic and Giver of Ruins this turn to get our own Maul and to potentially give our things protection later on. I probably should have taken the Archon out in this matchup. It doesn't seem very effective. I don't imagine they're going to block here. Okay. So then we play the Giver of Ruins and the Stoneforge Mystic. Get them all. Okay. That's our turn. Let's pass it back. Okay, they get Ghost Quarter here. They have enough mana to straight up play the Batterskull, but there's no real advantage in that when they have the Stoneforge Mystic active and ready to go. But this amount of mana also means that they can return Batterskull to hand and then activate the Stoneforge Mystic to immediately put it back into play. Okay, here's a Flickerwisp. I imagine they're going to flicker my Germ. And they do. We cannot protect it yet. But I'll be able to use Flickerwisp to flicker my Batterskull, and that will put the germ back into play. Okay, we find another Giver of Ruins. So I'm thinking Flickerwisp on Batterskull here. They also have the Stoneforge Mystic ready to go with their own Batterskull, so I might want to save the Flickerwisp for that instead, and just play the Archon this turn. That way we'll have a flyer that we can give protection from black. Okay, we'll pass from here. Just wondering what the next few turns is going to shake out to be like. With the Batterskull being able to be put quickly back into play with the Stoneforge Mystic from my opponent, it is a little bit awkward. Maybe I should be thinking about Flickerwisping my own Batterskull instead, especially since I have the Giver of Ruins to be able to give it protection from black. Would be able to be gaining life, swinging through the opponent's germ. Something to consider for next turn. Okay, so the opponent is going to path to exile the Giver of Ruins. There's nothing we can do about that this turn. We have another Giver waiting in the wings. So we'll give the Archon protection from black so that it can block Batterskull this turn. Yes, we will absolutely get another Plains, thank you. We have been a little stifled on mana. Okay, they're going to be putting the Maul into play. Oh no, Sophie instead. Was not expecting that. Okay, and they'll put Sophie on the Flickerwisp. Very good. So they had the full set in hand. Okay, well, there's really not much I can do here. The Archon can block the germ, but if it blocks the Flickerwisp, then it's going to die. And then the Flickerwisp can kill one of my Mystics or deal an extra 2 damage to me. Okay, it looks like they're going to kill one of my Mystics, and they'll draw a card. Okay, we find another land, so we're up to 5 now. We can return the Batterskull and put it into play with Mystic. Better yet, we can play a Flickerwisp, blink the Batterskull and then put the Maul of the Skyclaves onto it. Okay, and we'll pass the turn here, I think. Not interested in attacking. We're more interested in finding a way to gain control of the game here. I think the Giver of Ruins is also quite important. We're going to want to get that onto the board as quickly as possible. But I wanted a way to take care of this Flickerwisp first. Now they could put the sword onto the germ and use the Stoneforge Mystic to pump it up. Something I also have to worry about is if I block the Flickerwisp with the Flickerwisp, they could get the Maul and put the Maul onto their flyer. And then that flyer would have first strike, so it would be able to kill my Flickerwisp. The advantage of that is that, oh, and here's a Giver of Ruins for my opponent. So that's going to be very useful for them moving forward. I'm going to need to find an answer to that immediately. Winds of Abandon. I'm 1 mana off of that. So that would be pretty good. Pretty sure I brought both of those in. I did. Well, this is a very complicated turn here. Combat has a lot of options going on, so our opponent is really taking their time to consider the angles, and it looks like they've made a decision. So let's see how they attack. So wherever they put the Maul is where I will put the Maul, so that our creatures will trade. Okay, no attack. So I'm not sure if I'm even supposed to put the Maul onto my creatures this turn then. Maybe I'm supposed to leave it. If I put it onto the germ, I would be able to attack with the germ on my turn. So what could I draw that would punish me if I leave the Maul in hand? I don't think there is a thing. We're going to keep the Maul in hand, and we'll use it as an instant speed trick. Okay, we find Path to Exile. Fantastic. We can path their Giver, or we can use the path now on something else. We could get rid of their Flickerwisp, for example, before they're able to protect it. I think I just get rid of the Giver. Huh. It's not letting me cast it. Is there something going on where I've already played one spell per turn? So I can't even cast a Path to Exile. Well, I'm not going to attack here. I want to keep my creatures black as defenders. So Path to Exile will have to be another combat trick along with the Maul. This is a very tense game. It's quite slow-paced, but very, very tense. Okay, so they're putting the Maul into play. That's fine. They can attach it wherever they will. To the Batterskull. Okay. They are just about out of resources. But with so many lands, again, the Batterskulls are just going to be able to blink in and out, in and out. Ah, Flickerwisp. What are they going to hit with that? Let's find out. Ah, they're going to hit our Germ. That makes sense. I don't think there's anything we can really do about that. The Giver of Ruins is not ready to act. Okay, that works. We're going to take one hit from the Germ, and if they attack with the Flickerwisp, we'll block that. And if they use the Giver of Ruins, then we can path the Flickerwisp. Okay, they're using the Giver of Ruins immediately to give the Flickerwisp protection from something. So we'll immediately use the path to get the Flickerwisp off the table. And we'll get to keep our own Flickerwisp in that trade. Okay, we do have to remember to put the Batterskull into our hand at the end of the turn. Either that or put the Maul onto something. We could put the Maul onto the Flickerwisp and then put the Batterskull onto the Flickerwisp. Okay. Okay, that does nothing. And I think we put the Maul onto the Archon and then put the Batterskull onto the Archon. And we get Path to Exile, so we can get rid of their Giver of Ruins. That does mean that we don't have enough mana for the Batterskull. But our Archon can block their Germ if we give it protection from black. So we'll just get their Giver off the board. And then we'll pass. So our opponent is running low on time here. Oh, they found another Giver of Ruins. Very good for the opponent. Bad for us. And they don't attack. Okay. We get Flickerwisp, so we can flicker their Germ. We could flicker their Batterskull. The Giver of Ruins is going to be a problem, though. I think the best thing to do is to put the Batterskull onto the Archon and attack. Okay, they let it hit. And we pass here. And now they have access to Giver as well. Okay, so they could have removal spell here. Alright, they're going to give their... Oh, right, they give their creature pro white. And then we can't block. That makes sense. Okay, that does take the Maul off. But we have no blockers. And then the sword can kill the Giver. Okay, this is going to be a bit of back and forth, though, because every time they hit us, we can hit them. The Sword of Fire and Ice is really the balance breaker here. We can Flickerwisp the Stoneforge Mystic to go get our own Sword of Fire and Ice. Okay, opponent does have 3 cards in hand. They drew 1 card with Sword of Fire and Ice. It costs 4 mana to equip the Maul, so they'll still have 6 mana left over. Okay, they are equipping the Maul. Oh, no, the opponent hasn't played a spell, so they're still good to go. Hey there, handsome. How's it going? Okay, we find an Aether Vial. Kind of like when they found an Aether Vial. That's a little bit funny. I know, right? I actually personally really enjoy mirror matches. You really find out what is important in a mirroring match. For example, the Giver of Ruins has been a premium card in this game. I think we want to Flickerwisp. Now we could actually flicker our own Wisp, and then on the end step, we would be able to take something away from them for an entire turn, like their Giver of Ruins, for example. Or we could blink the Stoneforge Mystic and get our own Sword of Fire and Ice. Well, first thing we want to do is attack with the Archon. Okay, they're letting it through. And I think we want to go get a sword, so we're going to Flickerwisp the Stoneforge Mystic. But this this target right here, it could be interesting. If we flicker our own other Flickerwisp. Nope, nope. The only sword we're running now is Sophie. The other equipment that we run nowadays is the Maul of the Skyclaves. Just wondering if I should get rid of their Batterskull here. Or maybe their Sword of Fire and Ice. Getting rid of their Sword of Fire and Ice would be pretty good. But I think I would rather just get my own, honestly. Kind of funny that neither of us have drawn a Skyclave Apparition yet. There were a lot of choices with that Flickerwisp, how we wanted to run it. We could have got rid of their Germ. We could have phased their Giver out for a turn cycle. So yeah, there were a lot of targets. I'm really not sure what the best thing was. In the end, I decided to get Sword of Fire and Ice. If we can put that onto our Archon, we're laughing. Get rid of their Giver of Ruins, for example. Yes, at this point, we are down to top deck mode. And I definitely should have put the Aether Vial into play here. I just wasn't thinking about that. But yes, we are just seeing who can top deck the best cards. And the best cards are Skyclave Apparition. If the opponent gets an Apparition, they could get rid of... Okay, they're going to be switching the Batterskull over to the Flickerwisp now. And the Sword of Fire and Ice, so they lose their Germ. They have a 9/7, we have an 8/9. Ours has First Strike, so they cannot attack into ours unless they give their creature protection from white. Yeah, it's going to be turn after turn, top deck war. Path to Exile or Skyclave Apparition would be the best cards that we could get. We are looking to spend 4 mana here to put the sword into play and equip it. So I think that the best card we could possibly draw coming up would probably be Path. But I mean, Skyclave is fine too. Okay, opponent has 5 minutes left on their clock. So they are in danger of being time out in this match. They're going to have to start playing much quicker. Okay, so they are attacking with the 9/7 Flickerwisp. If we block it, they can give it protection from white, and our creature will die. What I'm thinking is I'll chump their Flickerwisp with one of mine, and then I'll block the Stoneforge Mystic with my Archon. If we don't block here, they're going to kill one of our Flickerwisps anyways and draw a card. So the chump here is best thing I could think of. And if we can keep this game going for a few more minutes, we're actually going to win the match based on time. Not the most honorable win, but it is part of the game on Modo. And personally, I prefer the chess clock to the method that we have in paper, where one player can use the vast majority of the time, and both players are still treated evenly in that regard. I think an even better method would be to use something similar to in Go, where you have a reservoir of time, and then you also have a turn clock. So I guess in that sense it would be similar to... Oh, I was just going to name Stoneforge Mystic? Names Sword of Fire and Ice. Very smart. Okay, so my Sword of Fire and Ice is basically textless at this point while this card's in play. This is summoning sick, so we're just going to have to pass and see what we draw. Okay, we get a castle. Oh, hey, how you doing? All right, Boudreaux. No, I'm not going to be playing the Eternal Weekend. How about you? Okay, so they have a 9/7 that they can give protection from white, so we cannot attack into that. Simic Delver. All right, well, I mean, best of luck, yeah. Okay, so we're going to be looking to chump this turn and hope to draw a good card on the next turn. We can still put the Sword of Fire and Ice into play with a Mystic. But it just doesn't have text while the Revoker is on the board. Okay, opponent should be playing much faster here. The Phyrexian Revoker and Giver of Ruins have given them a large advantage. If they can capitalize quickly, they should be able to win this game and the match. I think they're going to be wanting to use the Giver to give the Flickerwisp protection from white from the start, and then they can just start attacking in for damage. Their creature has Vigilance, so it's safe in that sense. They should also be putting the Maul onto it. There it goes. Okay, if they remember to give it protection before I can block. No, okay, so I get to keep on playing. I'm going to put one of the Archons in front of it. Chump, and that'll extend my life. Oh, I forgot to put the Sword of Fire and Ice into play. I'm a boob. Let's draw a card. And we find Winds of Abandon. Well, that's excellent. If we can survive one more turn, this is going to swing the game in our favor. We have access to 6 mana, so we can wipe their board. So we'll pass here. I think we play the Aether Vial, put the Sword of Fire and Ice into play at the end of their turn, and then Wings of Abandon. Okay, we might actually get there. Ladies and gentlemen, we might be able to do this on the back of Winds of Abandon, but we have to wait one turn. No attacks, and we pass. Oh, well, that's a really good system. If you register, you just get to build your deck out of anything you want. That's almost similar to what I've been doing lately. I have to pay for it, but it's been fantastic being able to play different decks week to week. Okay, so the opponent is giving their creature protection from white, which will take the Maul off. Yeah, what's the white Thoughtseize called? You know what would be really good for the opponent? Would be Mana Tithe. If they had Mana Tithe, they would blow us out. Okay. And they put another card into play. That's good for us. Let's go ahead and put the sword into play. And then overload the winds. This is going to be the first opportunity I've ever had to overload winds. Pretty excited. Right? Oh, imagine if I could put the Arbiter into play before the winds went off. That doesn't really matter. Cast with overload, please. Bye-bye, boardy. Come on, show me that Mana Tithe. Yeah, so close. If I had put that vial into play one turn earlier... Not that it really matters. The opponent has infinite mana regardless, so... Okay. Their equipment has gone to the back row. They have 1 minute left on the clock. And we will attack. I don't see the opponent coming back from this with 1 minute left on the board, but they could just go ahead and put in a Skyclave Apparition here. Okay, no, it's a Flickerwisp, so they're going to get rid of our creature. And they can block and trade here if they like, but I don't think they will. They'll just equip that creature up. So that was a very good play on their side, having that Flickerwisp there to stifle my attack. But they have 40 seconds to attack for 20 damage. Yeah, that's right. No drawing cards with your Sunbaked Canyon, thank you. Time to put on your pants, Flickerwisp. Yes. Yes. Okay, so we can lose the Archon or the Stoneforge Mystic here. They have 7 seconds, so whatever, no blocks. And time over. So we're probably playing against Omnath deck. This hand looks fine. We'll keep this. Okay, start with plains and nothing we can do, so we'll pass. Oh, really? I didn't realize that Tron decks play this. I suppose it would definitely be allowed. Interesting. Okay, here's an Oath of Nissa. Combos with Golos. I suppose it does. That's true. Good to know. So our choice here is whether we want to play Thalia or Arbiter. Thalia will be stifling their spells. Arbiter will be stifling their fetch lands. I believe the opponent will be playing plenty of fetch lands, so we're going to play the Arbiter to start. Handsome agrees, they want the cat. So we'll play the cat and pass. We can play a second cat on the next turn, and that'll make it even more difficult for the opponent to fetch. Stoneforge Mystic is unfortunately a non-bow with the Arbiter, So we'll start with an attack here. And if they kill the Arbiter, maybe we'll play Stoneforge Mystic. Okay, no Lightning Bolt, so we'll play another cat. They now have to pay 4 mana to search their library. Okay, that Prismatic Vista is a nothing. Ah, yes. That's very possible. I saw the Saheeli cat a little while ago. Thalia will slow that down a little bit. And if we can slow them down just enough where they have to play 1 spell per turn, then we can use the Skyclave Apparition to mop them up. Okay, we'll attack for 4. They have no removal spell. So we'll play the Thalia and pass. Yeah, they need quite a bit of mana. In order to do it all on 1 turn without Thalia, you need 6 mana. So, okay, they're playing Utopia Sprawl, so that gives them a little bit of mana in the coming turns. But if they're spending their whole turn just to do that, then I'm fine with it. And we can use Skyclave Apparition to take the Utopia Sprawl. So we're going to do that on our turn. Flickerwisp. Interesting. When we flicker a Utopia Sprawl, that just comes right back down onto any land they choose, I believe. So yeah, I'm going to use the Apparition to get rid of the Sprawl. Okay, opponent has conceded. They didn't need to see my Apparition. So if we're playing against... you can't... Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point. Flickerwisp the land. Yep. That would be the proper play, I think. Okay, so our opponent is looking to play some large creatures, Uro and Omnath. Both of those creatures are green. The Relic-Warder can get rid of their land enchantments, so that's a possibility. Winds of Abandon is a possibility as well. It does get rid of the Uro. Rest in Peace also helps getting rid of Uro. Phyrexian Revoker, I'm not really seeing much of a use for it in this match. Okay, so as to what I can trim, the Archons are actually going to be quite decent here. Well, they're going to stifle the fetch lands. Revoker for their Planeswalker. That is a consideration if they are playing Cat. We didn't see enough to know if they're on Omnath or Cat or Niv-Mizzet. Okay, we've got 1 minute left. We're going to have to figure this out. Okay, I'm going to bring in Winds. And we'll take out... Do we take out the Stoneforge Mystics? No, maybe the Givers. That is a good point. The Oath of Nissa was a pretty clear indication. You're right. This hand doesn't seem very good. All our creatures cost 3. We're going to mulligan. This hand is not much better. But I don't want to mulligan to 5. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, so what are we going to keep? So I want to keep 2 lands, Vial and Arbiter. And we have to put 2 cards back. So we're definitely putting Plains back. The question is, do we keep Path to Exile, or do we keep Mirran Crusader? I'm kind of leaning towards keeping the Path here. I'm not quite ready to do that. Oh, we're ready. 1 land, huh? And we'll just let the Aether Vial do all the work for us. Okay, here we go. We're going to risk it all. You got it, Shiv. Okay, here's the Oath. We're going to play the Vial. Let's see if we can draw a land to get the Arbiter out on turn 2. All in Vial. Okay, we get Skyclave. Really kind of hoping for that land so we get the Arbiter out on turn 2. But they already have mana in order to play around it. It'll just slow them down. Okay, here's a Renin 6. So they're going to be fine for lands. Okay, unfortunate. We don't have anything to do here. We're just going to have to pass. Was hoping we would draw that second land, but no such luck. Thalia is no good with the Renin 6. Renin 6 can just kill it without them having to spend mana on a spell. I'm expecting to see Uro here. Oh no, there's Saheeli. So we have the Path to Exile to kill their cat when they try and combo. Okay, we find Sophie. Okay. I don't think we put the Leonin Arbiter into play yet. I think we just wait and see if we can catch them. But if they play a fetch land, then they're going to be able to crack it before we can catch them with the Arbiter. So maybe we just play the Arbiter now. Okay, and we'll pass with Path to Exile up. I was definitely considering the gotcha, but if they play a fetch land, then they're already able to crack it before I can put the Arbiter into play. So it's not actually a gotcha, it is a tax. Okay, so they're going to scry. That doesn't mean that they don't have cat, but they might need to spend the mana to put the 4th land into play. So no cat this turn. Instead, they're just building up value, and that is a problem in itself. Okay, so looking to take our turn here. We'll pump this up to 3. And we get the Archon. So non-basics enter tapped, and they have to pay to search. So that does slow them down, but they do have access to the 4 mana now, so we have to make sure to keep the path up. We could Skyclave the Renin 6. We could Skyclave the Saheeli Ray. Let's see here. So this one is quite close to making an emblem. And I don't think they have anything for the ultimate with Saheeli Ray in the deck. So I don't think we have to worry about that. You think the Crusader is a good trick? I agree. So we can attack with the Arbiter. We'll attack the Renin 6 so that it's nowhere near close to ultimating. And then EOT will put down a Mirran Crusader and start having double strike as an option. Oh, they have something here. What is this? They're cycling. Okay, pretty good trick with Renin 6. Pick up their cycling land. Okay, here's Omnath. Okay, so they'll draw a card. Okay, so they have the Windswept Heath, so they'll gain 4 life. Let's see if they remember about the Arbiter. They do. So we're going to be looking at, I believe, the Skyclave Apparition here to take Omnath off the board. Although we could still play Crusader. Crusader cannot be blocked by Omnath. And then we can play the Apparition during our turn, and that will put more damage onto the board. We're going to keep the path for the cat. I suppose we could keep the Apparition for the cat as well. And if we path it, they do not get a land. Yeah, we can just leave Skyclave up for the cat. Okay, so we have enough damage to kill the Renin 6 here. And we get Winds of Abandon. So we could kill the Renin 6 or the Saheeli Ray. Let's kill the Renin 6 first. Or we could deal them 6 and put them to 9. If we put them to 9, we would not have enough damage with Skyclave Apparition next turn to kill them. I don't think the Renin 6 is really worth it. I think I want to be attacking them. Okay. If they play their creature, we can use the Skyclave Apparition to end the combo. Okay, they have Teferi instead, so Path to Exile would no longer work. They are able to use that to bounce the Arbiter and crack their fetch land. They're going to bounce the Aether Vial instead. Good play. Good play, opponent. So I could play the Apparition here and take out their Saheeli Ray. And that, once again, is a way to take the combo off the board. And they have the Helix for the Arbiter. Okay. They're going to be able to start using their fetch lands again. Find a second Aether Vial. Not a single land was drawn that game. Don't think there's much value in attacking Teferi here, or the Renin 6. I would like to just attack the opponent and put them to 6. Okay. Hey, you only need one when you got Aether Vial, right? Opponent does have 7 cards in hand. I expect them to have plenty of answers here. Is this another Omnath? It is. Yeah, the Teferi was very good. Okay, so they gain life and they're able to make more mana. So the game is looking like it's swung over to the opponent's side. Okay, there's Uro. What happens when you play a third land? Deals 4 damage to each opponent and each planeswalker they control. Oh man, but there's no 4th trigger, right? Okay, so they're at 10. We have 6 damage on the board. If we draw land, we can Winds of Abandon their Omnath. They don't quite have enough in the graveyard yet to bring Uro back, but I'm sure they're going to fix that. It looks like another Uro is coming down now. No, this is another Teferi. So I'm pretty sure this game is done. This feels like garbage time to me. Oh, Mirran Crusader is unblockable. Oh, the illusion can block it, of course. And that would be a trade. Okay, let's see what we draw here. No land. We're going to concede. And we'll move on to the next game. So now that we know that the opponent is on the Planeswalker plan, we're more interested in Phyrexian Revoker. Sword of Fire and Ice does seem quite good, as does the Maul. Was not too impressed with the Mirran Crusader there. And I think we're actually at enough removal with the Paths and the Skyclaves. Winds of Abandon being a sorcery doesn't feel very good. So we could bring a pair of Givers in, or we could bring the Mirran Crusaders back in. Let's bring the Crusaders back. We'll try like this. It was all non-lands. We did not draw a single land that game. That's okay. This hand looks fine. We'll keep. Get that Arbiter out on turn 2. And then Thalia to slow them down from there. Phyrexian Revoker to stop whichever Planeswalker they put out. Okay, we expect to see them crack that fetch land as soon as we play this card. Yeah, very good. Okay, so they have a land that they can play. Is this a... no, not a Helix, it's a Ren and 6. Put the Rainforest back in hand. We can revoke the Ren and 6. Mirran Crusader would also be a very good play here. The Archon means their lands come into play tapped, which slows them down even further. So we have all kinds of options on what to play. I'm thinking we'll probably play Revoker Thalia next turn when we have access to 4 mana. Or we could Ghost Quarter 3-drop. I like playing the Archon here to make their lands come into play tapped. The question is, do I start attacking the Ren and 6? I think I want to just attack their life total. So yeah, we'll play the Archon. And we're going to ignore Ren and 6. We're going to attack their life. Ghost Quarter Archon. Ghost Quarter Arbiter. So many choices. Okay, they have an untapped land. This is in a row. Okay, so they'll gain 3 life, draw a card, and put probably the fetch land that we already saw onto the board. Oh, no, a breeding pool instead. So they have all their lands without fetching. Ghost Quarter would be able to eliminate one of these lands, but they'd be able to rebuy it with Ren and 6. Okay, we get Flickerwisp. So I'm thinking Revoker Ren, play Thalia. Either that, or we could play Mirran Crusader and Ghost Quarter to take their Triome. But if we do that, the Ren and 6 can just get it back. You think Revoke and Ghost Quarter. So not the Thalia at all. I think that's pretty good too. Okay, we pretty much have to rename Ren and 6 here, because otherwise the Ren and 6 could kill the Revoker. So then the question is, do we do that during their draw step? I think the draw step would be better than now. No, because then they could tap the mana to search, so we have to do it now. Okay, Vista. Okay, they do have another play, though. And a Sprawl. Okay, so we can flicker their land to get rid of the Sprawl. And we get Field of Ruin. So we could Field of Ruin their land. We would not be able to search, but the opponent has 2 lands, so they would be able to. I think the Flickerwisp is a better play in that sense. Yeah, I agree. Okay, take 6. Okay, and I should have tapped the Field of Ruin to hold up Path. Get rid of the Stomping Ground. Okay, we have 5 in the air. Oh, our opponent has conceded. We have 2 lands, and we have plays to make for the first 2 turns. We're going to keep this. Giver of Ruins into Stoneforge Mystic is quite good. Our opponent is mulliganing. Okay, they've kept with 6. So Plains and Giver and pass. Okay, so we're playing against the Urza deck. Oh, what the heck? Urza with Bauble? Okay. We have the Ghost Quarter to take them off Urzatron, but we don't want to do that yet. We want to play the Stoneforge Mystic first. And if we draw a second land, or third land, that's perfect. So we might not want to reveal that we have Ghost Quarter yet, so we'll take a Pain in order to put the Stoneforge Mystic down, and we're going to keep the Giver of Ruins untapped to protect the Stoneforge Mystic. And here we're just going to go get Batterskull. Okay, and pass. Attacking for 1 damage isn't going to be important, I think. I think it's far more important to keep the Stoneforge Mystic on the table. Okay, they have Power Plant. So we're going to want to use the Ghost Quarter. If we draw Leonin Arbiter here, they still have 2 mana to be able to use the Ghost Quarter's ability to go get a land. We're going to use the Ghost Quarter on their draw step. And we're going to use the Stoneforge Mystic on their end step. Again, we want to keep the Giver of Ruins untapped to save the Stoneforge Mystic. Or the Germ Token. So we'll leave it no attacks. Okay, on draw step, we'll get rid of the Power Plant. There's no way to technically know which one we should be getting rid of. Okay, Sylvan Scrying, so that's going to get them something. Another Power Plant. Okay, and they go ahead and play it. Okay, so we're going to be playing the Archon if we get another land draw, so that we can, again, stifle their mana. But for now, we're going to put in Batterskull. Okay, we do not find land, so our only play is another Giver of Ruins. We will attack for 5. Play Giver and pass. Now, we are usually quite decent at dealing with Tron things, because we have a lot of land destruction, but it did not shake out this time, and our opponent managed to put Tron together. They have access to 8 mana, because they found the Tron piece with the draw of the Chromatic Star, and with 8 mana they could put down an Ugin. Okay, it's just Karn. So if Karn tries to exile something, we can give it protection from colorless. Ah, but it doesn't work on the Batterskull itself. Okay. We can kill the Karn, fortunately, but we cannot save the Batterskull. We're really going to be looking to draw Field of Ruin or Ghost Quarter here. Field of Ruin, I think, would be the better draw. Okay, we find Ghost Quarter. So we will attack Karn and Ghost Quarter the power plant. And again, we'll do it on their draw step. This is so they have a small amount of chance to draw a forest, so that potentially they wouldn't be able to search it out. But I think Tron actually plays 3 or 4 forests, so the likelihood of them not having a basic to fetch up is quite low. We are not in the market for drawing a card here. We want to keep our lands so that we can play our creatures. Okay, they found another mine. They have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana total. 4 mana this turn. But it looks like they're passing back to us. Okay, we do draw land. We can Flickerwisp the Stoneforge Mystic, and that'll get us another equipment, or we can play the Archon. I'm leaning towards the Archon here. And I'm also leaning towards just attacking with everything. Okay, so this the Archon stops one of the things that Tron can do, which is play these artifacts over and over and over and draw cards. Ah, there's a Wormcoil engine. Okay, we cannot use the Apparition to take care of that. We are going to need a Path to Exile. We get Thalia instead. Okay, so we can give our creatures protection from colorless, which means that's going to be stifled. I'm thinking what we want to do here is flicker the Stoneforge Mystic, get an equipment, and then we can give a creature protection from colorless and just block this over and over and over again while we attack in the air. Okay, we're going to get Maul. Okay, and we pass from here. This has been a very interesting game. Opponent has access to 6 mana. Usually the opponent wants 7 mana. I wonder if they're as on the game about the Archon as I am. I usually forget about the rule of law and try and cast 2 spells during my turn. Okay, Ancient Stirrings, so that's their 1 spell this turn. We're going to be able to hit them for 5, 6, 7 on our turn. We could do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We could hit them for 9, putting them to 1, but that's not good enough. Okay, no attacks. And we find land. Okay. So I'm thinking we put the Maul onto the Stoneforge Mystic and attack in the air, and then leave the Givers back as blockers for the Wormcoil engine. Okay, puts them to 2. Alright, we need to avoid them getting basic forest here for 7 mana. Walking Ballista would be a big pain here. If they did have a Walking Ballista, we would probably give Flickerwisp protection from colorless. Okay, opponent has conceded. I think that we got just the right amount of lucky in that game. Honestly, did not expect to be seeing Tron. But I think we have some okay cards for the matchup. We have Phyrexian Revoker and Relic-Warder. We are going to have to take out a few cards. The Givers and the Paths both seem excellent. Leonin Arbiter seems very good. Thalia seems okay. Sword of Fire and Ice doesn't seem very good at all. Archon seems good. The Skyclave Apparition also seems quite poor, so we're going to take out 2 of those. Do I want Sword of Fire and Ice more than Apparition? I don't think so. Apparition can answer some interesting problems, the same as the Warder can. So we're going to keep it like this. Okay, so we have too many lands, but because of the matchup and we have 2 Ghost Quarters, we are going to keep. These lands are spells, the Ghost Quarters, and the Sunbaked Canyon will eventually can be turned into a draw, so I'm fine with this. Okay, we get Arbiter, which is going to go very nicely with the Ghost Quarters. We're going to start with Giver of Ruins. One thing to watch out for, though, is the Arbiter is going to stifle our Mystics. And it's going to be worth it, though, I think, to get the Ghost Quarters working on their lands. But unfortunately, because the opponent had the play, if they have a second Tron piece here, we're going to have to fire the Ghost Quarter off, so that they won't have access to 7 mana on turn 3. Okay, so they did look at our top card, so they know what we are drawing, and they have Forest. So that's very good for us. We're going to be able to play the Arbiter. Or better yet, we'll play the Stoneforge Mystic, and then we'll play the Arbiter, because they won't be able to get much mana, and that way we'll be able to search. Okay, so we do find land here. We're going to play the Stoneforge Mystic first, and then the Arbiter next turn, because they do not have Tron on turn 3. So again, the question comes up, should I attack with the Giver of Ruins, or should I keep it back to protect the Stoneforge Mystic? I think it's more important that I get the Batterskull out in a timely manner, although I won't be able to do it next turn because I'm going to be playing the Arbiter. I could potentially attack here for 1. I think that's fine here. We're not going to be using the Stoneforge Mystic next turn. We're more interested in using the Arbiter. Now, we could have used the Arbiter here because they had tapped 2 lands and they would not be able to use the Expedition map. But this way... Okay, so they have Power Plant and Mine. I expect them to play one of these cards, and that's going to be the one we'll destroy. So we'll destroy their mine. That's a card they searched for. They will not have extra copies in their hand, I guess. Phyrexian Revoker. Interesting. Okay, so we're going to go with the plan here. Play Ghost Quarter, play Arbiter. And then we'll use the Ghost Quarter now while they're tapped out. Get rid of the mine. And attack for... I really want to keep the Arbiter in play. We might want to keep the Giver of Ruins back on this turn. We'll just attack for 1. And next turn, depending on how they tap their lands, we might be looking at another Ghost Quarter and Phyrexian Revoker. So that's the power plant we knew about. Are they going to tap their lands? They tap one of their lands. Ancient Stirrings. And they find the mine. Okay, so they're almost there again. We are going to have to use this Ghost Quarter. I'm hoping they tap their lands. If they don't tap their lands, then we'll use the Ghost Quarter during their next draw step. And we're also looking to put the Batterskull into play. Okay, they do tap. Fantastic. So the Ghost Quarter we'll use during our turn, and it will be a strip mine. Okay, so they're passing here. Fantastic. And we get Archon. Very nice. Still, we want to play the Ghost Quarter and get the Batterskull into play, so we're going to do that. We're going to take their power plant. Okay, and we'll attack with the Arbiter. We want to keep the Stoneforge Mystic untapped for the Batterskull. We could attack with Giver of Ruins, but that opens us up to Dismember. Okay, that's the mine that we knew about. Okay, it looks like they're passing here so that they have 2 mana for the Arbiter. We're going to be putting the Archon down, which is going to punish them for not casting more spells while they weren't subject to the rule of law. Oh, hey, thanks for the follow. Thank you very much. If you don't mind asking, how did you find this channel? Hey, Boudreaux, thanks for the follow. Okay, so they are destroying our Batterskull. Unfortunately, the Giver will not protect it. We do have Stoneforge Mystic, which will allow us to go get the Maul. But I'm more interested in playing the Archon now, which is going to stop them from cycling through their deck. So we'll attack for 3 and hold the Giver up to keep the Archon in play. Okay, we'll pass here. We have been missing a little bit of damage on the Giver of Ruins. I've been doing it to play around Dismember. We do not want to lose the Arbiter, and now that we have the Archon in play, we would like to keep them both. Okay, that's their spell for the turn. They can still play the land. Blast Zone is a good land for them. They'll be able to tick that up to 2 and get rid of the Arbiter, but that'll take a couple turns, and by that point we will have applied quite a bit of pressure. We are going to want to keep our 2 drops in hand here. We're not going to want to be losing extra cards, or we could play this, but it says non-land card, so that is not going to stop the Blast Zone. We could play the Mystic and get the Maul. I think that would be worthwhile. If we play the Mystic... Okay, we can't play it because of the Arbiter. We will just play another Giver of Ruins here. And I think this is almost lethal. 4, 5, 6, 7. So we might end up being punished for keeping the Giver of Ruins back every turn. But we can't know what they had in hand. I would if I could. Unfortunately, Revoker does not name lands. Okay, Blast Zone is ticking up here. Or they might be getting... Nope, Sylvan Scrying. Okay. So they're going to go get the final Tron piece. It will come into play tapped. And they'll be able to play one big spell next turn. So I'm going to play Phyrexian Revoker on Ugin. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So do I want to keep one Giver back? I think that would be fine. We can leave them at 2 life and potentially give something protection. And then we'll play the Revoker and we name... the Planeswalker's name is Ugin, right? But which Ugin? What is the 8-mana Ugin called? Ugin the Spirit Dragon. Thank you, Metnik. The other good name there would have been Walking Ballista. Okay, let's see what our opponent has. This is their turn. They're at 2 life. What's the name of that relic as well? That also would have been quite good. They have something. Karn is not going to be good enough. Yes. Yeah, Oblivion Stone is the other thing I was thinking of. Oblivion Stone would work just as well as Ugin. All is Dust, yep. I don't think the opponent would be playing All is Dust, but I could be wrong. Usually that's more of a Eldrazi Tron thing. The opponent seems to be on Classic Tron. Yes, perhaps you're right. Ah, Thragtusk. Okay. So they go back up to 7 here. We can attack for 2 in the air. So yeah, Thragtusk is quite good from the opponent. We can attack for 4 total. If we use the... Actually, we can use 2 Givers, and we can attack for 6, putting them back down to 1. They could put the Blast Zone up to 2 here, which is going to be a bit of a hassle. I intend on attacking with quite a few creatures here. We're going to swing... So if we swing all, they block Arbiter and they take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that seems quite good. You can't play another spell there, bud. Oh, okay, they're getting rid of the Givers. So we cannot swing all. and we find Plains. Unfortunately, the Apparition does not hit Thragtusk. Thragtusk is too beefy. We can Stoneforge if we pay 2 mana. I'm thinking we probably attack with the Archon, and then play Stoneforge Mystic. And then next turn, we can hopefully swing for lethal. Sword, no, I'm going to get the Maul. So we could still swing all. I don't want to get rid of the Revoker, though. And that would just leave the Arbiter sacrificing itself. Yeah, things have changed enough. We're just going to attack in the air, and then we'll pay 2. And play Stoneforge. Yeah, the sword is 2 mana intensive. We might have even taken it out. We're going to go get the Maul. Yeah, we remembered to pay this time. There's definitely been instances where we have forgotten that. It is embarrassing. Okay, so they realize that we have lethal at this point. They need to find an answer. They have 1 spell, and it cannot be Ugin. Would Karn be good enough? They could Karn the Archon, but then we would still be able to attack through if we attack with everything, plus the Maul. O-Stone, they have enough mana, right? Because that's 3 and 5 is 8. They have 8 mana. O-Stone would be a good answer. Walking Ballista, 8 mana, they would have 4. They'd be able to kill the Revoker and the Archon. Walking Ballista might be good enough. Now, this is exciting. This is maybe one of the final turns of the match. Let's see if our opponent can turn it around. Okay, think they might have decided on something. They're cycling Wilt. Okay, well that doesn't count for the Archon. Of course, Tron always has something. They have 5 cards in hand. They have something. But they, if it's, stars and maps, then those aren't very good because that counts for their 1 spell per turn. Rule of law. Opponent is getting pretty low on their clock. Just 10 minutes and a little change left over. Okay, our opponent is paying costs. They might have made a decision. Okay, it's a Karn, the Great Creator. Okay. So I think this gives us the game. They won game 1, you say. Now, my memory must be fried. That's no surprise. Okay, I think we have this game, though. Unless they have something to do with that. Yeah, didn't we win through that worm coil? So we have access to 5 mana. We put the Maul onto the Phyrexian Revoker and then just attack all. I believe we did, but my memory is pretty shot. I'm pretty sure that we did. Thanks, handsome. It's strange, I kind of get into this zone when I'm playing Magic. And, okay, well, opponents conceded. This hand is garbage. I hate it. 5 lands. No Aether Vial. No thanks. I'm going to Maul. This hand is better. I will keep this. We have to put something back. Got to get that 3-2. I think we're already there. I'm leaning towards the Archon here. Flickerwisp works very well with Skyclave. So we'll play a Plains and pass. Turn 2, Arbiter. 3-1 right now, so 3-2 is easy. Let's see if we can do better than that. Yeah, exactly. We'll do what we can, find the 4-1. So our opponent is playing Polluted Delta. They have no Luris, so this could be quite a few things. My guess off the top of my head is Grixis Death Shadow. Drew the Giver a turn too late, as is our habit. Play the Arbiter. They will fetch in response. Okay, so we know what colors they are now. They're Sultai. That's true, handsome. We got 5-0 on Wednesday. If any of you haven't seen it, it's up on YouTube. We played some very interesting deck lists, some that I'd never seen before. It was fascinating. Okay, we got no land, but we do have Thalia. So we'll attack for 2. I think we play the Thalia first, so that if they have any tricks, then we'll know about it. No, I don't think that's necessary. We'll attack with Arbiter and play the Thalia second. I think that we ended up playing a mono-green Titan list, which ran Valakut and Field of the Dead. And we played a self-mill list that wasn't Oops All Spells. And then what else did we play against? Burn, Blue-White Control, and another burn deck with Scourge. Okay, Field of Ruin from the opponent, and Uro. For a Watery Grave, so they're a Sultai Uro pile. Okay, we find Stoneforge Mystic, which is a non-bow with the Arbiter. We're just going to play Giver of Ruins. Unfortunately, we will not be able to hold up Path while the Giver, because of the Thalia, taxing us as well as the opponent. Oh, congratulations, Metnik. 5-0 with Miracles. Now, Miracles, that would be Legacy, am I right? I realize that Miracles exist in Modern, but you don't generally see them. That's the deck that used to be running Sensei's Top, right? Okay, no, in Modern, really? Okay, well, I'll have to do a little bit of research. Is this something you came up with yourself, or is this an established list? Okay, so they're paying the tax. Okay, and they're going to field here, which is going to get rid of my land. So good play on the opponent. They're taxing me. Aspiring Spike. Okay. So we're really going to be looking for a land here. And we find one in Ghost Quarter. So we do have the option of using the Ghost Quarter to get rid of their Triome. And then they don't have the mana to bring the Titan back. Second from top. Okay, so first thing we're going to want to do is attack. I think we're going to want to attack with the Giver as well, so that we can have a quicker clock. So the question is, do we want to have the ability to cast Path to Exile, or do we want to take them off of one of their lands so they don't have the double green for Uro? I think them playing Uro is fine if I can path it, but I don't like them having all these lands and access to all these spells. It's pretty close, I think. I'm gonna hold up the path. Yeah, I think you're right. It's too important to have the land here. Yeah. Yeah, we can't cast... If we use the Ghost Quarter, we can't cast a single spell. As much as I would like to get rid of their forest. I mean, if they're not even going to do anything on their turn, then that seems fine to me. Okay, we got a second Thalia. We will attack all. Okay, the opponent does have something. They're going to drown the Giver in the lock. Okay. So they'll take 4. And I think we continue to hold up Path to Exile. It seems a lot better than putting a random 1/2 with no text onto the field. Okay, Breeding Pool tapped, and they're passing back again. We find Aether Vial. I wouldn't mind putting that into play. Let's see how they respond to this attack first. Here's a Snapcaster Mage, and they have Drown in the Lock. Yeah, that's true. So they can get rid of one of our cards here. Let's find out which one it will be. Probably the Thalia, block the Arbiter. We do have the opportunity to path the Snapcaster Mage. And if we do that, they'll have to spend mana to get the land, and they won't be able to Drown in the Lock. I would much rather keep this path for Uro, but we have the Skyclave Apparition for that. So worst comes to worst, if we can draw a land, we can use the Apparition to get rid of the Uro. I'm just looking to get this damage through. We've been putting quite a bit of pressure up. If we can keep this pressure going, hopefully we can win this game, despite having so few lands. Ah, right. He can counter. That's true. That's true. I wasn't thinking of that. Okay, he has decided to kill the creature anyway, and that means he can search with a path. So yeah, that was very clumsy on my part. Okay, getting Swamp. So this might actually be a Niv-Mizzet list. But if it is Niv-Mizzet, I would have expected to see a companion. No, it is Sultai. So Swamp makes sense. It is a nice swamp, though. Mercadian Max. Ice Age. And a promo. Okay, it looks like here comes another Uro. Gain more life. Draw a card. Yeah, I think you're right. No red, no companion, no Niv. Okay, they are passing again, but they have 6 cards in hand and a ton of mana. Hey, we finally find Plains. The Stoneforge Mystic is ready to go as well now that the Arbiter's off the board. Let's attack with Thalia and see what happens. If they knock the Thalia off the board, we can play Vial and Mystic. Okay, they take the damage. So we're looking to play Stoneforge. Sultai control Field of the Dead. That would make a lot of sense. All the different land types here. Let's see if they have Cryptic Command here. They can't have Cryptic Command. We have Thalia. Archmage Charm. Okay, that'll work. We cannot cast the Vial because of Thalia, so we'll pass. They are going to be able to put their Uro into play now, and we'll have Apparition ready for it. This will gain them life, extending the clock, and every turn they get to play magic is this game goes further and further into their favor. Okay, another Mystic. I think that the play here is fairly obvious. We could also flicker the Uro, but that would give them another card draw, another land drop, and another 3 life. And put the Uro in the graveyard. So let's just go ahead and use the Apparition. And hope they don't have another Drown in the Loch. Okay, they have a Mana Leak instead, so we're going to concede here. And we'll move on to the next game. Okay, so Rest in Peace seems like a good option here. Protection from black and from green also seems good. I think that Sword of Fire and Ice is mediocre in this matchup. The Thalia seemed okay. Giver of Ruin seems okay. Path seems okay. Arbiter seems okay. You think the Sophie is good in this matchup? It's not going to be killing any of their creatures. It will be a form of card advantage, though. And it does allow us to attack through Uro. Yeah, that's all fair. In that case, do we want to be considering taking the Batterskull out because it's worse against Jace and Uro? I think we probably keep that in too. It's difficult to find anything to cut in this matchup. Two Path to Exile. Two Path, one Thalia. We're going to need one more card to go. Perhaps one of the Givers? Alright, we're going to run with this. Oops. That might have been a better option, one of the Flickerwisp instead. This hand is great. I love it. Love everything about it. We're going to keep it. We're going to use the Arbiter and the lands to clear their board out so they won't have a chance to play anything. Okay, let's see if we can draw a Giver. We get another Ghost Quarter instead. This Leonin Arbiter is going to be gasoline. Okay, we'll play the Ghost Quarter and Arbiter. The opponent will fetch in response. You think Thalia, huh? Yeah, you're right. You're right. That was a mistake on my part. I'm supposed to play Thalia there, and then I can use the Aether Vial to bring the Arbiter in instant speed. And now they have the answer to it. Yeah. That was a total punt on my side. Oh, that's disappointing. Because, yeah, we could have put the Arbiter in with a Vial and have access to Field of Ruin here. Or double Ghost Quarter. Unfortunate. And I think we just Vial it in now, or do we do it during their upkeep? I think we do it during their upkeep so they can't spend their mana to do 2 mana Fatal Push. Ah, the Growth Spiral. Well, they could have Growth Spiraled in response. But they would have had to respond to the Aether Vial, so there is that. Probably going to be drawing a card with a Silent Clearing here. We have tons of lands, and we already have a white source. And we have the Aether Vial to play our double white source cards. Okay, get another Aether Vial. We will tick this up to 3 and leave it there, and find a third Aether Vial. Okay. So we'll play Field of Ruin. I am curious if I'm supposed to use the Field of Ruin on their Watery Grave. I don't think doing the Flickerwisp now is going to do much good. We could also, on the end step, put the Flickerwisp in, take one of their lands away, and use the Field of Ruin to take another land away. Oh, what monster do we unleash? They gain control of our Aether Vial. Okay, so we can Flickerwisp it so they don't get it. Although that will put our Aether Vial back down to 0. Okay, and we can play another Aether Vial, because why not? Oh, we can't do that because of Thalia. Whoops. Anyway. Ignore me. Okay, we do have a clock here. Speaking of clocks, our time is more than 3 minutes under our opponents. That is something that we have to be aware of if we're going to go to Game 3. And we draw planes. Okay, looks like they're going to take the 5. We will play a second Aether Vial here. They're going to fetch with the Flooded Strand. Okay, they have something end of turn. They want to draw 2 cards. There's nothing we can do about that. And they cast Damnation, getting rid of our board. Okay, so really we can say this whole game came down to that one misplay where I played the Arbiter turn 2 instead of the Thalia. I think this game would have been completely different if we had... Yeah, unfortunately this is basically it. We lost game 1 and this is match 5, so we're done. Okay, here's Field of the Dead. So at this point, the game really has come to its conclusion. We do have Ghost Quarter to get rid of it. And Aether Vial number 4. Oh my god. Done. Get that field out of here. Mystic Sanctuary. What do they get back with that? Archmage Charm, Fatal Push, Damnation. It's all good. Archmage Charm. Makes sense. Very versatile. Draw 2 cards. Seems good. And a Jace. Okay, we're done. I guess we could draw the Spirit. Let's see if we draw the Skyclave Apparition, but I'm pretty done with this game. Opponent has Jace the Mind Sculptor and 6 cards in hand and a ton of lands on the field. They've taken control. Batterskull. Okay, so as Jeff Hoogland would say, we are in garbage time. We are going to concede that game. And we end up with a respectable 3-2. Had a lot of fun playing the Death and Taxes today. I think I'm going to play it again during the weekend while I still have the deck. I would highly recommend it to anyone thinking about what deck they want to be playing in Modern. This might be the best deck in the format right now. If you'd like to see the deck that I was playing today, this is it. A fairly basic list. Running the Auriok Champion because I expected to run into a lot of Death Shadow lists, but it seems like people have started to move away from the Death Shadow under the power of the Skyclave Apparition. The Relic-Warder has actually been a very interesting card, both in the mirror match to be able to exile opposing equipments, but also to be able to get rid of pesky enchantments. We don't really see Worship anymore, but this would be a potential answer to that. The Winds of Abandon was incredible. We were actually able to overload it and manage to take a game against Death and Taxes that we were definitely on the back foot in. All in all, highly recommend this deck. And if you'd like to check out any of the leagues that I've played previously, I put them all up on YouTube, so feel free to check that out. Otherwise, I'll be back next week for my regularly scheduled events, and I might sneak in a couple leagues this weekend. We'll see. Anyways, I hope you all have an amazing weekend. Thank you very much for stopping by and having a chat, and see you next time.